This is the I Love Success podcast. I'm Peter Jumrukovsky, and I have made a vow to myself to help as many people as possible to achieve their dreams. Let's get started. My name is Peter Jumrukovsky, and this is the I Love Success podcast. Today, we are here in Point Dume, Malibu, to meet with Khalil Rafati, the owner of SunLife Organics, who now have 10 shops and more than 400 employees. But it wasn't always like this. At one point in life, Khalil Rafati was homeless, a drug addict who lived on infamous Skid Row for more than 20 months. He changed his life, and believe me, if he can change his life and make something good out of it, you can too. So come with me and let's listen now. Welcome, Khalil.
Thank you.
Or maybe you should say welcome. We're in your office downstairs. You have the most amazing juice bar, your flagship store that you opened about, 8 years ago now?
7.5 years ago.
7.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had the Dragon Bowl.
Wonderful.
So I feel energized and
Yeah.
I'm ready to talk and share your journey. So once again, thank you for doing this. I know you're very busy and you were supposed to be in Puerto Rico now, but the stars aligned.
The stars aligned and I missed my flight.
Yeah. And we are here. And I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I just want to start with something that I ask all my guests, and that is, who is Khalil Rafati really as a person?
Who am I really as a person? Obviously today much different than I was many years ago. I would say I'm a person that's committed to pure, authentic self-expression, sometimes to the point of failure. I don't have a filter. I don't have a pause button. I feel also, beyond being really compelled to express myself purely and authentically in whatever manner, I also feel incredibly blessed and lucky that I've made it on this planet almost 50 years. And after the way that I lived most of my life, I make cats with 9 lives look unlucky. Yeah. I've survived so much. So I was thinking about it this morning when I was in my sauna. I feel like, man, I made it this far. I might as well spend the rest of my life having an impact, a strong impact on other people to the best of my ability.
And that's amazing, especially what you have gone through in your life journey, which we will share today on a little bit deeper level. Can we just start with you as a kid growing up? Can you just talk a little bit about that? Where did you grow up and how did that affect you? Because I know that for many years you were living recklessly because you didn't want to live.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town in Ohio, a little farm town called Toledo, and both of my parents were immigrants to this country. My mother came from Poland and my father came from Palestine, and they met at university. So they had me. I was the only child out of that marriage. However, my father was married many other times and had a lot of other kids. One in Canada, a couple in Palestine, I think one in Jordan, some in Chicago. So he had kids kind of all over the place. And my mother had one other child aside from me. And really, really rough childhood. Really horrible childhood. A lot of neglect, which was the most painful part, was the neglect, just being left alone all the time and no one tending to me. And by the way, my parents aren't horrible people. My parents just didn't know how to be parents. My mother was 4 or 5 years old when the Nazis invaded Poland, and as she spent most of her early youth, marched off to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, whatever Stan countries, and then ultimately wound up in Siberia. So she didn't have any parenting. And my father, the same thing. My father had a really tough time over in Palestine, pre-Israel Palestine, and then when he was 12, it became Israel, and him and his family became refugees in the land that they grew up in. Yeah. So neither of them knew how to be parents. So when I say this, I'm not bashing my parents, but I mean they did a really really awful job of parenting me and not protecting me and not teaching me values. So horrible childhood, acting out at a very very young age. I guess like most kids, but I think a little bit younger, like smoking pot and drinking.
How old were you when you started doing
8, 9, 10. Trying to fit in with the older kids, and
Do you like, if we go back to that time when you were like 8 and 9, if you think back, do you know why you started doing these things so early?
I was dying on the inside and I didn't know it. I had this horrible feeling, this intense sense of like this overwhelming sense of impending doom. Like it always seemed like something really really horrible was about to happen. And that obviously came from the trauma, from the violence, from the sexual abuse, from whatever was going on when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But that feeling never left. I always had that feeling like something horrible was going to happen. So initially, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, drinking beers or whatever, that was so I could fit in with the older kids, because there was a bunch of other misfits and kids that didn't have good parents that were running around, and the kids that had good parents obviously were they were being well taken care of. They were having dinner at 6 and they had a dog, they had a cat, they went to bed at a decent time. But there were older kids that were running around, I guess, juvenile delinquents. I don't know what they call them today, but I gravitated towards them because I wanted attention. They were all smoking weed and drinking and all that, so I did that to fit in. But ultimately, I found that drinking and smoking weed and smoking cigarettes anesthetized me, numbed me, and it felt good. It felt right. I liked it. I really enjoyed the feeling of initially smoking pot. I liked at first, until of course I started having panic attacks, but that's a whole nother deal. And the alcohol, I felt good, I felt strong, I felt protected again in the beginning. Ultimately it led to self-destruction, but in the very beginning I really gravitated towards even pills, like 12, 13, taking I think it was called Dexedrine. We called it something different. We called them like Yellow Jackets and Black Beauties, and we had all these different street names. But a lot of speed, pharmaceutical grade speed, and uppers, downers, Valium, all that stuff. It just felt amazing. Like I felt good for the first time, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And do you think that all people who do drugs do to escape from something, or?
I feel that, I think there's certain people that like can go to Burning Man once a year and take some mushrooms and they're fine. There's certain people that can, maybe have a little bit too much to drink at the Christmas party or at New Year's Eve, but for the most part, they're just having beers while they watch the game, or they go to the bar with their friends and they have a beer. I was never that type of person. So I think there's regular people that consume drugs and alcohol in a normal manner. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome. I think that having wine or beer or things that using them as a social lubricant, I think can be really wonderful, or as a means of like communion, as a means of coming together, going on a first date and having a glass of wine, stuff like that's awesome. Mushrooms and ketamine and MDMA, I mean, there's incredible benefits to those substances. For someone like me who's dying on the inside, for someone like me who is filled with so much panic and anxiety and fear, I'm talking about as a child, not as I'm sitting here now. As I'm sitting here now, I feel pretty amazing. But for someone like me that was wired like that and was temperamentally on the depressive side and anxious all the time with a highly addictive personality, those substances are not for me. And just the moment I would drink until I was blind. The moment I would start taking pills, I would start, taking pills until I was having, heart palpitations and chest pain. And I was all in. So for me, it's no good.
And you talked a little bit about your parents. Were they aware of the sexual abuse that was going on?
No. When I brought it up to my mom's attention, she shooed me away. She said, "Oh, he's just tickling you," and pushed me away. I didn't tell my father out of fear, because my father was an incredibly violent man. When I told him many, many years later, he just said, bullshit was his response. You and LaToya Jackson. I don't know why that was his response. I'm guessing maybe LaToya Jackson spoke of sexual trauma in her childhood or something like that. I don't know. But I think it threatened him and it upset him. And anytime I would try to put him on the spot and talk about my childhood or talk about what type of a father he was or what type of a husband he was with my mom, his default go-to was, I don't remember. And I don't blame him. I think he's an old man now. And the last conversations we had, which were 4 or 5 years ago, he didn't want to look at that stuff and look at the past. And I had a vested interest in looking at that stuff and looking at the past because, it caused a lot of damage. But again, I love him. I love him deeply, and he did the best that he could. And I love my mom deeply and dearly, and she did the best that she could. They weren't bad parents. They were just, or that's not true. They were shitty parents. They were awful parents. They weren't bad people. Yeah. They were products of the environment that they grew up in.
Yeah. But we're gonna talk more about that, because you change your reality, right? You started telling yourself another story, and you're sitting here today, so it is possible to change, right?
Yeah, it's definitely possible to change your habits, and it's definitely possible to change. Look, we're sitting in a very expensive office with a very nice floor and very fancy pictures on the wall or crystals or whatever. And if you go back 16 years ago, we would be in an alley or a public restroom that smelled like piss, and I would be, shooting heroin or smoking crack. So I can change my environment. I can change my physical surroundings. I can change my habits. I don't know. It's a tricky question. Can someone change? Because I definitely changed my environment. I changed my habits. But I got to tell you, at my lowest, at my worst, even when I was acting badly, there was a pretty good human being underneath it all. And I think in general, people are good. People are inherently good. There's going to be exceptions to that rule, and I'm sure someone out there is going to be, well, what about Mussolini, or what about Hitler, or what about, there's always going to be exceptions to that rule, right? Yeah. But I think all of us are inherently good. So we don't change that. We just get really shitty habits, and then those really shitty habits turn into a really shitty life. And then if we're lucky enough, we wake up from that really bad dream and we change those habits, and then we end up having a really amazing life. So the type of change that you're talking about and the type of change that your listeners would be interested in, absolutely, positively. Can you get in amazing shape, make a ton of money, meet the girl or guy of your dreams? Absolutely, yes, 1,000,000 times over. That type of change is infinitely possible. If you are a horrible, dark, evil human being at your core, are you going to change into a wonderful, loving human being? I don't know about that. I don't have any experience with that. I always, when I was a little boy, I always loved the bunnies, and I always loved the minnows in the creek, and I loved the sunrises and the sunsets, and I had my own weird little relationship with God.
You think you were born like that?
Yeah, I think I was born, inherently good, and and the trauma happened, and then I became anxious and depressed, and I started to act out as a means of getting attention and a means of protecting myself. I don't know, some of my grade school teachers might say that kid was rotten, but was I, or was I just acting rotten because I was terrified and I didn't have anyone? No one loved me. That's not I'm not trying to sing the blues, because lots of people love me now, but no one loved me. My mom did not know how to love me, and my dad did not know how to love me, and that's just because no one taught them how to love or be loved. Yeah. So
it's so hard, because we can't choose who our parents are, right? We have to deal with the cards that we've been played in that sense. But how did you deal? You said when you talked to your dad about the sexual abuse and he threw it off, and your mom How did you deal with this, and how did you come over that?
I got angry at first. I got really angry. I mean, I've always gone through periods of not speaking to my dad. We've never had a good relationship. And I think my dad at his core loves me. My dad's never liked me. There's something about me that my dad doesn't like. And I don't know. There's probably something about me that lots of people don't like. Maybe I get under people's skin. I don't know. Like, my dad just didn't like me. And maybe I reminded him of my mom. Maybe I reminded him of himself when he was my age. My mom truly believes that we do choose our parents. She believes that we choose our parents before we're born to go through whatever karmic lessons that we need to go through in order to evolve into the human being that we're supposed to be. And, it's all for the evolution of our soul, that we actually do choose our parents. I will tell you this, as painful as all that stuff was, and as much as I hated them at times and resented them at times, or like with my dad, didn't speak to him for years at a time, I am so, so, so grateful for them. And I am so grateful that they were my parents, because I was thinking about this the last couple of weeks. Because, I have a lot of friends that are my age, people that I grew up with, whatever, that are just kind of, you could tell they didn't go to where they wanted to go in life. You could tell that, like, I don't know, you can just tell that they're not where they want to be. And
how do when you talk to these people, how do they express that? Because I think there's so many people now, they are in a situation that they don't like.
They seem defeated. They seem hopeless. They really seem without hope. A lot of Facebook is one of those weird things where, Instagram is all bragging. Instagram is all like, you post a lot of pics when you're on that white sand beach with your feet up in the air, and then you post the pic and the caption is, tough day at the office. There's a lot of sarcasm and a lot of like humble bragging on Instagram. Facebook seems to be a lot of the opposite. Facebook is kind of like, hey, I'm really hurting, or hey, like, wow, this is not how I thought life was going to turn out. And when I see some of the people that I grew up with, or some of the people that I've gotten to know over the years, I can tell that they're really hurting and they're not where they want to be. And most people don't believe that they can change. Most people. But you definitely, if talking about the type of change that we're talking about, you can definitely change. Better job, better someone. I was reading something just a couple of hours ago. I don't know what it was in, but it said, you have to learn to get up from the table if love is no longer being served. And I was like, whoa, that is amazing.
That's a good quote.
And no one does.
Yeah.
No one does.
It's difficult.
God, you see all these people in relationships where the people hate one another.
Yeah.
Or they're just, they loathe one another, or maybe they're just bored with one another or frustrated with one another. You don't have to stay in a relationship if you don't like the person you're in a relationship with, or if the person doesn't like you. Like, when I hear about these dudes that, like, their girlfriends want to leave them or their wives want to leave them, and then they go and they kill them, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why would you want to be with somebody that didn't want to be with you? If somebody doesn't want to be with me, I don't want to be with them.
I know, but I think it's so complicated, because that have had addiction all your life, it's
an
hard.
addiction.
It's hard to walk away, right? It's
Yeah.
just a different type of addiction.
It is definitely an addiction.
And I mean, it's so hard, because deep down, this is podcast 111, and I've met like UFC champion, Olympic medalist, 9/11 survivor. I've met a lot of interesting people with a cool story, and so many people do the craziest shit just to be loved.
Yeah.
They would train 10 hours a day to become an Olympic medalist, just to someone that can say I love you. And when you reach that level, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's like we're all chasing for that love, and we're going to talk more about that, because I know that you did that yourself in many of your relationships.
Yeah.
But let's talk about you, Khalil, deciding to go to LA. I know you talked about it for a long time. You always wanted to live on the West Coast, and then there was this night with your buddies, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't remember it wrong, you were standing on a car yelling, "I'm going to LA," right?
Yeah, I was doing my best imitation of Jim Morrison, which I saw in Oliver Stone's film The Doors, where he jumped up on a car and he started yelling at everyone, calling them all, you're all a bunch of slaves, you're all a bunch of fools, something to that nature.
Yeah.
I plagiarizing his actions and words or imitating him to the best of my ability, did the same in downtown Detroit and was yelling at my friends like, you're all gonna die in this shitty little town. And yeah, they all looked at me and said, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm leaving. And they're like, bullshit. And I was so full of false pride and I was so insecure and codependent that when they called me on my shit, it was so painful that I left the next day. I couldn't take it. I couldn't face them because I didn't know that they were all thinking that. I was talking about for like literally when I was 17, I came out here for like a day and a half and then I went back home. And then I guess for 4.5 years, I was talking about moving to LA without ever really doing anything about it. And I didn't realize that they all thought that I was full of shit. So when they yelled right back at me, it hurt so bad. And like with most great change, the pain was too intense to bear anymore. So I left.
You did it.
I did it. I got my car. I had $800 and something to my name, $860 to my name. I didn't have a map. I just got my car. I got on the 70/80 and I just drove and I drove and I drove and I cried and I cried and I cried. And here I am.
Here you are.
27 years later.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Before we move on, can you just talk about that moment when you were leaving? You tried to be stopped by your dad, right? You put your pillows and your duvet in your back seat.
Yeah.
What happened? Like,
I thought for sure my dad was very reactionary, so I thought my one last ditch effort would be, go to my dad's restaurant. He's the most punctual person on the planet, and he was going to be there at 5 p.m. So I figured I'll stuff everything in my car and make it very obvious that I was leaving, and I knew he was going to stop me, and that would have been my out. Well, I tried to leave, my old man went crazy, and so I have to stay another 6 months. That was my out.
yeah.
And I pulled up in his parking lot at like 10 minutes till 5, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I'll never forget it. I was actually listening to this band called Big Audio Dynamite, which was sort of some of the members of The Clash had started that band. And I was listening to Big Audio Dynamite. I can't remember the name of the record. And then all of a sudden I saw his car pull in and I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And he comes walking, he starts walking, he walks right past my car. So I rolled down my window. I'm like, Dad. And he turned around, he's like, yeah. And I said, I'm going. I'm moving to California. And he just literally looked at me, looked at my backseat, and he goes, good luck. And he just walked in. He walked into the restaurant and shut the door. I'm like, shit. And
how did that feel?
We can
laugh at it,
yeah,
at it now.
It felt so bad.
I mean,
oh, God. I cried. I so badly wanted him to stop me. I so badly wanted him to say, no, don't go. I love you. You're my son. Don't go. Like, it just didn't happen. And all of my friends' dads, like my friend Teddy Pappenhagen, like his dad loved him so much and always told him how much he loved him and always hugged him and always kissed him. And my friend Nick Mancy, he had the coolest dad. He would take us to movies and then we would sneak into another movie right afterwards, even though he was rich. I don't know why I remember that, but like he told Nick all the time. And then Gus, the guy that kind of raised me after I left home, he loved and still loves his daughter Nicole so much. I mean, it seemed like everyone's dad loved their kids so much, but yeah, again, my dad just didn't know how, or he didn't know how to express it, I guess. But yeah, I fucking died. Oops, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to swear.
You can swear.
I died on the inside.
Yeah.
I cried probably all the way out of Ohio, all the way into Indiana, and I think I cried even out of Indiana into whatever the next state was. I cried the whole way. It was just chain smoking cigarettes and drinking Diet Coke and sobbing my eyes out because I just wanted to be loved, man. I just wanted my dad to love me. I wanted my mom to love me, but that's life.
Yeah, no, it's so sad because we all need love, right?
Yeah.
But you rewrote your story. But let's talk a little bit about coming to LA. What happened when you came here? And because in the beginning, life was pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you leave your I would suggest to anybody that's young, living in whatever town, I don't care if it's the coolest town, I don't care if it's New York City, then move to LA. If you're growing up in LA, which is an amazing city, move to New York. If you're living in Chicago, try Seattle. Like, I think anybody that's young that has the possibility before the kids come, before the marriage comes, before the career comes, before all the stuff that life piles on top of us, or as John Lennon famously said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. I would suggest to anybody to leave. And so, yeah, I left and I came out here, just with nothing. And things just kind of like the universe, when you're making big, giant, bold moves, the universe truly, truly conspires with you. Like the universe will come, and I'm saying universe instead of God because I don't want somebody out there shutting down like, oh, he's some Jesus freak, or, like I'm just God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. Like the universe is gonna help you along. And it did. And yeah, my life got really good really quick. And back in Ohio, I was the bad guy. And I sort of took pride in being the bad guy, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. But in LA, I was just like a dude from Ohio. And like, if you're a dude from Ohio in LA, or a dude from Arkansas or wherever, like, people like you. People see something special in you that people in your hometown are not going to see. And it went really well. I met some really fancy people. I got some good work. I made some good money. I have a great work ethic, which I inherited from my mom and my dad. And just strong. I was so strong when I was in my 20s. My God, I could do anything. I could work 20 hours a day, no problem, and have a sex life. Like I was such a strong little beast. Things went great. I made a lot of money, and was hanging out with the cool people, dating some, kind of semi-famous people and, models and whatever. Yeah, things were good. I was hanging out with a lot of cool people. But then ultimately, I resorted back to my old ways, and I found it much, much easier to sell drugs than to work hard. Fast cash. I went for the fast buck. And that worked really well at first, too. I mean, I was cruising up to Marin County and just picking up pounds of weed and bringing it down here, and just, God, I was printing money.
Did that feel good?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I felt great. I mean, I felt guilty and I felt dirty, but I loved having money for the first time in my life. I loved having a couple $1,000 set aside and, able to go to fancy dinners with some beautiful girls. Like, yeah, it doesn't feel good like this feels good. Yeah. This feels incredible. This is like, what I feel right now is entirely different from that. That felt good compared to the wilderness of pain that my childhood was. Yeah. See, like different levels of feeling good. Yeah. So that felt good. And things went good for a while. But then things started to go not so good. I decided, well, God, if I'm making all this money, here, like I should ship some of these pounds back east. And I started driving back and forth across the country, and eventually I got popped, and that's how I picked up my felony, was in this good old state of Texas. Yeah. And once trouble comes, it comes in spades. It starts to stack up, and just like work begets work and love begets love, trouble begets trouble, violence begets violence. And things started going real bad.
And what do you remember that moment that you felt like, shit, this is gonna go really bad? Do you have, like, is it a specific moment, or is it just like adding up all those years?
It added up, but I'll never forget when I started getting really into dealing ecstasy, because that was incredible at first. I mean, talk about feeling good. I mean, remember, all of a sudden I have monumental, astronomical amounts of serotonin being dumped into my brain synthetically from this MDMA. Like, that was the best I'd ever felt in my life. And we were making a fortune dealing ecstasy. But I remember very specifically we called them boats. Like 1,000 hits of ecstasy was a boat, and I was going to pick up some boats. And I don't know. I just was always like high or carefree or Pollyannic or whatever. But I went to go pick up these boats, and I went there by myself, and these dudes, Marin County was like deadheads and hippies selling me weed. Type of people that sell thousands of hits of ecstasy at once are a different breed of people, and these dudes in these big parkas came and like surrounded my car.
Shit.
And they came and they got me, and they escorted me up, and there was such a dark feeling. I mean, it was scary. It was cold and dark, and they took me up into this apartment or whatever, and I remember pulling all the money out, and the dude flipped out, and he was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, "What?" And it was all 20s. And he went crazy. Now, we were going to raves, and we were selling thousands of hits of ecstasy for $20 a piece, so of course it was all 20s. I thought it was cool. Looked like more money, right? Not cool to a gang member that's got to count the money quickly. And he gave me a look like, "You're lucky I don't, blow your fucking brains out right here." And that, yeah, when he said, "Go back down to your car and we'll bring you your shit when it's ready. We got to count all these fucking 20s." I remember sitting in my car going, I almost just died. Like, this is not going well. And this is like the direction that I'm heading in. I could feel like this is not good. This is not going to get better. I'm not going to meet like a higher quality of, gang members or drug dealers. Like, I'm going down a dark road. This is probably not going to end well. So I might as well really live it up.
And how did you end up on the streets? How far from that were you at this point?
No, at that time we were rolling in the dough, and we were going to raves and going to Coachella and going. I mean, that was the great time. There was, everyone has a brief honeymoon period with drugs and drug dealing and all that. There's always like a little honeymoon period where you're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I can do no wrong." The homelessness and Skid Row and all that was progressive. And, there's different levels, like there's different levels of pain and degradation. There's different levels of homelessness. At first we got evicted from our apartment, so we crashed at my girlfriend's parents' house. We were homeless, right? Then, we were such a wreck drug-wise, and the type of people we were bringing around, they tossed us out. So we were staying in hotels. That was a different type of, we were homeless living in hotels. We did that for a while, quite a while. We went from hotel to hotel. I had started shooting up around that time, so things speed up. The overdoses, the blood everywhere, needles. People don't like that stuff. So that graduated to then sleeping in our car, and then eventually when she went into treatment, or when we went into treatment and I left, and her parents hired this guy named Warren Boyd, they call him the cleaner. They came in and they extracted her and sequestered her and had guards watching her and wouldn't let her have access to a phone, drugged her, as a matter of fact, to keep her away from me. And thank God, because I wouldn't be alive today if they didn't. Now, at the time, I hated them because the bank account was in her name. The car was in her name. I had nothing. And that is what ultimately led to homelessness. I was pretty smart at first, definitely went and jumped on welfare, got some hotel vouchers, got the food stamps, would kind of bounce around from hotel to hotel. But sooner or later, are you going to spend $30-$40 on a hotel room, or are you going to put it in your arm so you're not dope sick? And after a while, it was just, I had to stay. They call it staying well, which I find very ironic. But you have to stay well when you're a junkie. You can't get sick. And to stay well, you gotta cop dope, and you gotta shoot it. So a lot of panhandling and taking advantage of the system, like so many people do, with the food stamps and with the welfare, or general relief they called it. Things got really, really dark and really, really scary. And then I don't know. I'm not really built for the streets, so within a very short period of time, I felt like I was living in some sort of Dante's Inferno, like the 6th or 7th circle of hell. I mean, really weird, scary shit.
Do you remember the first night you spent on Skid Row?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What made you make that decision that I'm gonna stay here tonight? Because that's a scary place.
I had the money to get a hotel, and to be honest with you, the first night I spent on Skid Row, somewhere inside of me, I thought it was somewhat glamorous and cool. It seemed like an interesting story. It wasn't the first night that scared me. It was, like the 20th night. It was, you get dirty and itchy and stinky and gross and ugh.
What goes on Skid Row, and how do we save those people that are there?
First of all, you can't save anybody. They have to save themselves. Second of all, I'll speak from personal experience. I didn't want saving. I wanted more food stamps or more welfare or general relief or more money from panhandling or drug dealing. I wanted more money to get high. Something that nobody really wants to look at is people get high because it feels good. And a lot of people are in those situations because they choose to. You got to remember, there are shelters all over the place. I had access to probably 5 to 7 different shelters at that time, from Claire Foundation. Tarzana Treatment Center had a program where if you were on general relief, you could get on a waiting list. You could go there for free. Music Cares, Musicians Assistance Program, the Weingart Center. I mean, and look, and I'm not saying it's not a huge problem and that those people don't need help, but you talk about change and you want to help a lot of people change. Something that needs to be talked about that's never talked about, most people don't want to change. Most people don't want to change. People want their toys back. People want their husband or their wife back. People want their criminal record to be free and not to be facing court or prison time. People want money so they can go get high. People want someone to stay with them so they can continue to abuse them. But very seldom do people actually want to change. I hope to God, if someone is actually listening to this and truly wants to change, that they know that they can change. But I also hope to God that if someone is listening to this and they're deluding themselves into believing that they want to change, to maybe get clear on what you really want. Because if you're looking for comfort and you're looking for your toys back and you're looking for, someone to come along and strike you rich. If you ask most people, what do you want? What's your wildest dreams? Like, I want to be rich. What does that mean? What do you mean you want to be rich? That's an awful answer. What do you want to do with the money? And this whole well, man, I would just travel and I would, I've done that. I have money now. And that does not fix everything. What I truly wanted was to learn to love myself and be comfortable with myself and start to attract people into my life that loved me for me. And to enjoy spending time with people that wanted to spend time with me. And when you get that, then you jump on a plane and you go to Namotu and you catch some waves, or you go to Hawaii and you eat some acai bowls on the beach, or you go to Mexico and you drink a fresh coconut right off the tree. I mean, it can be really amazing, but I think if you ask most people what they really truly want, they don't know what they want.
To change, you need to do the inner work, right? And what you're saying, most people don't want to change, and I don't necessarily agree. I think what you were saying, most people don't know what that change will look like, because they're in a state of mind that they don't even know what is going to make me feel good. And for just to take an example from my own life, when I started doing yoga, it opened up so much for me, right? Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to breathing, feeling your body, and now all of a sudden you understand that there's so much more to life. Mm-hmm. And it comes from just breathing. How the fuck could it be like that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who haven't had a deep breath in years.
Yeah.
And it's so simple yet so difficult. And with the I Love Success podcast, the whole reason why I named it the I Love Success podcast is that I want to redefine success.
Yeah.
Because success, it's not just money. It could be something completely different. And what does it mean to be rich? Just to give you an example, for me to sit here and share this journey with you, this is being rich for me.
Yeah.
This is how can it get better than this?
Yeah.
This is something that is amazing. And being rich is being loved but also giving love. We all want to be loved, but do we want to give love? An unconditional love?
Yeah.
Who like unconditional love, does that really exist? Maybe only the mother.
Right.
I don't even know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing with the money, like, yeah, of course, I talk about this all the time, and I always like to address it. Like, money definitely brings you happiness. Money can buy you happiness up to a certain extent, undeniably. I don't care. You're making 20, 30, 40 grand a year and you're struggling to pay your bills, and all of a sudden you get a job where you're making 300 grand a year, you are going to be a lot happier. Yeah. If you're $100,000 in debt and it's crushing you and you're paying, you know, 500 a month or 5,000 a month in interest, I can't do math, but, and then all of a sudden you write a song and you get $1 million and you pay off your debt and you have money in the, you're going to be much, 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 much happier. But what I'm saying about when people say, like, you know, what do you want? Like, I want to be rich. Well, how many rich people do you know, and how many of them are happy? Because we all know a ton of rich people, and we all know a ton of miserable rich people, right? We've seen it all our lives. And we can also Google, or it's probably even on YouTube or Netflix, but look up that documentary on lottery winners. Why is it that like 90%, if not more, of all lottery winners wind up super depressed, killing themselves, strung out on drugs, you know, marriage is ending, like whatever. Like, wanting to be rich is not an advantageous or a very thoughtful or mindful goal. Wanting to have a lifestyle without the pressures of financial burdens, that's great. And wanting to be able to share that lifestyle with someone you love and someone that loves you, that's amazing. And then wanting to give back and be a part of a community, that's even better, you know?
I think service to others and not being selfish and giving, that gives me happiness, at least.
For sure.
And it doesn't have to be a big impact. I mean, even though I have a big fat goal,
yeah,
if only one person listen to this and get one small idea to improve their life, this is all worth it.
Oh, dude, there's a guy that DM'd me. You could tell he wasn't very good at expressing himself, but he DM'd me and he said, I got a lot of, you know, good reviews. I love, you know, my ego loves to read good reviews. I go on Amazon and like I'll cry or I'll smile or I'll puff my chest out sometimes. But
and your book is awesome. You know,
thank you.
It truly is really good.
Thank you, and it feels good to hear that. But I'm going to tell you what somebody said to me in a DM, very cryptically. You could tell he couldn't express himself that well, but he basically said, "Hey man, I saw the post that Kelly did about your book a couple years ago, and I got your book and I went to my first 12-step meeting and I never used or drank again. And for an IV user like me, it's a miracle." And what he means by IV is he means intravenous. Yeah. And when I read that DM, I was like, oh my God, there is a guy out there that was shooting dope, that was probably at death's door, that saw some famous surfer guy's post about my book, and here we are 2.5 years later, and that guy is clean and sober. And that just, it stuck with me, well, apparently for months, because it was months ago when he said that. And it had such a profound impact on me. And like, you know, I got a couple different cars, or like I wanted this watch really bad, and I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't feel good to have it. It was an interesting goal and I got it, but, or the cars or whatever, like I looked for this one particular Bronco for like 4 years. I used to be on eBay like 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I got it and it's beautiful. It sits in a warehouse collecting dust. but that DM from that dude, which is an extreme example, or yesterday I was at one of my locations, one of my stores, and there's this girl that works there who I love. I mean, I love them all and they're all super special, but there's this one particular girl who I just absolutely love. She's a college student, and she's just such a beautiful soul. She has like light emanating from her. and we were talking about food, and I was talking about like, yeah, like brain food, and like, you know, I was at Air One. I got like all this amazing Air One's like this super, you know, Air
Yeah.
One. I love it. So it's a super dope grocery store. It's really expensive, but like, if you got the money and you can go, they have like this uncured bacon, and they've got like these amazing avocados, and they've got bison, like organic, grass-fed, whatever. And I was telling her about it, and she was just like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And I was like, well, you got to eat like that, you know? We were talking about energy levels. And she's like, I know, I don't spend the money on the good stuff. I know I should. And whatever, didn't really put another thought to it. Then I was super hungry, and Air One has this amazing hot bar where you go and you get your food and you eat. So I'm eating my food and I'm feeling really good. And I thought about the girl. I was like, shit, I'm going to go get her some stuff. And so I'm looking around for like, what would I want if I was like a 22-year-old college girl? Like, what would I want? And so I was going, and then all of a sudden, like this energy like filled me up. And like, I don't have kids, but like, I kind of felt like maybe I had a daughter that I loved. And I was thinking about, I'm going to buy her, oh my God, ghee. I wonder if she has ghee. I'm going to get her ghee. And like, oh, I'm going to get her these avocados. And like, I picked out all this stuff and I bought it. And not because I'm a good person, but just because if I was in her position, I would want somebody to think of me lovingly and kindly like that. And so I spent about, 25 minutes gathering this stuff up. And by the time I was going through the cashier and I gave her my card, whatever, I was like beaming. I was glowing, and I got my card. I knew she was closing, and I was so excited to get back down to the store that like I kept finding myself speeding. I'm like, I gotta slow down. And I walked in and I had the groceries, and she's like, hey, what are you doing back here? And I'm like, oh, here, look what I got for you. And she looked at me and I looked at her, and there was that moment where two human beings were just loving and appreciating one another, It wasn't a girl that I was objectifying. It wasn't a guy that she thought was cute or whatever. It wasn't her boss that she was fearful of. It was just two human beings that she couldn't get over it, that I thought about her, and that I went and I did that. And I'm explaining to her like, no, you don't understand. I'm the one that's lucky. I'm the great recipient right now because I'm beaming. I got to feel like a proud father, for the first time in my life. And I was so excited that it felt like my wheels weren't touching the ground as I drove here so I could give this to you. And she looked at me like with this sparkle in her eye, and I'm pretty sure I had like a twinkle and a sparkle in my eye too. And she said, thank you. And she hugged me. And like, that love I wanted when I was a little boy from my mom and from my dad, I got it. I got it from her. And she would have given it to me anyway without the groceries because she does. Yeah. But it was just that moment of pure, authentic self-expression, that moment of love, that moment of purity, of unconditional love. She could quit tomorrow. She could leave. She could disappear. She could go do whatever she wants to do. I don't care. I wanted to nurture her. I wanted to love her. And there ain't no watch or car in the world that can compete with that. And if you don't have money, you think that's bullshit. That's not true. If I could get a Lamborghini or if I could get a Ferrari, you know what's amazing about Lamborghinis and Ferraris? They're the most coveted, amazing cars on the planet until you can afford one. I can go buy one right now. I wouldn't. I would feel weird. I would feel uncomfortable driving a car like that down the road, driving a $400,000, $600,000 car down the road while plumbers and electricians and housekeepers and day laborers are going past me on the bus. I would feel like a piece of shit. I don't need that shit. So those little things stacked up together make life absolutely amazing and incredible.
And I totally agree, and thank you for sharing that. And there's so much of this going on in the world. There's so many beautiful people that are doing this all the time that we forget to talk about. But let's look at ourselves for a second. How often can we do this? Can we do one small little thing every day? Can we look a person in the eye when we buy that coffee? Can we encourage someone? If I think your watch looks good, why can't I say that? Or
right.
If you look good, wow, did you work out today?
Right.
It doesn't cost me anything.
Right.
Can we do more of that to bring more love without always thinking that it has to be a transaction.
Yeah.
Life is not always transactional, and I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about something that you talked about in your book. You said you have to surrender in order to change.
Yeah.
What do you mean with that, and how can I use that as a human being?
Well, I can't remember how many thoughts we have a day. Somebody could Google it. I'm sure, it's like 90,000.
95,000.
Yeah, 95,000. And I think like 90% of them are the same habitual thoughts that go over and over and over again. So what ends up happening is, we end up telling ourselves these stories about who we are and what we are. And a lot of people get to their final breath and they come to the realization that their entire life has been a complete mistake. I know for sure that happens to a lot of people. And in my desperation, in my massive amounts of pain that I was going through, it got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I realized, like, look, you chicken shit, you're not going to go kill yourself because you're not that brave, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And by the way, I think killing yourself is the worst thing you could ever do because it hurts so many people. It's such a selfish, awful thing. Like, it sucks. And I mean, I have empathy for those people because I was there myself many, many times. And I'm glad that I was a chicken shit. I'm glad I wasn't able to pull the trigger. I'm glad I wasn't able to drive off the canyon like I was planning on. I spent a lot of time looking for the proper spot to drive off, so I knew I wouldn't end up a paraplegic. I would end up dead. But I got into so much pain that I could keep fighting it. I could keep trying to swim upstream and fighting it, or I could just surrender. And surrender is like, we're taught our whole lives not to surrender. We're taught that, like, something's wrong with you if you surrender. You're weak or whatever, but like, to surrender is really to join the winning team. Like, I don't know anything about war. I've never had to suffer through that or be brave enough to go through that, but like, the kamikazes were like revered as these amazing, they would kill themselves with the plane or whatever, and I guess their family could live on with honor, but I can't imagine what their kids felt like. Dad's gone forever. But then, I watched that Desert Storm a lot because I didn't have a whole lot going on at the time. And I remember watching those, I think it was the Iraqi soldiers. I remember watching them all like surrender. And I thought to myself, good for you, man. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, you surrender. Like, here's somebody who is obviously going to destroy you and wipe you off the face of the planet, so you can keep trying to fight, or set your guns down, put your hands in the air, wave your white flag, and go join the winning team. I bet a lot of those dudes are living really good lives now. They were probably 18 to 25 years old at that time. That was in the early 90s, so they're probably like my age. I bet a lot of those dudes are dads now. I bet some of those dudes are even grandfathers now. I bet a lot of those men and probably women are living some really incredible lives. So surrendering, although it sounds scary, but when you surrender, you really do join the winning team. You just, if you're having some beers on a Sunday and you're watching the game and it's working, knock yourself out, go with that beer belly and live your life, like that. If that's good enough for you, that's great. But if you're hiding bottles of vodka around the house from your parents or from your loved ones or from your children, or you're running off and you're taking pills and you're lying to everybody and you're not telling about it, or you're watching porn hours a day when you're lying to people and saying that you're working, or you're gambling online and you're not, whatever your shit is, if you're doing that and it fucking sucks, just surrender. Just surrender. Just let it go. Just drop the fucking rock. That giant rock, that 1,000,000-pound rock that you're carrying around that makes you feel so shitty. Just drop the rock.
I think that's the problem with a lot of our men, because if we look at suicide, I think it's 3 out of 4 are men, because we have so much pride in ourselves, and we think giving up means that we are not enough, not men.
Yeah, failures.
Yeah. but not quitting at the right time is just being stupid, right? I'm so stubborn sometimes that I will do things that I know is not good.
For sure.
In business, for example, because I said, no, I'm gonna make it. But why don't listen to people? And I'm working on that now. That's why I'm collaborating with a lot more people now, because I can't do it myself. And I need to learn from the people that have already done it.
Yeah.
If I'm going 110 miles an hour in the wrong direction, it's not good. It's not helping me.
Right.
But how do we, like, in your situation, you had no choice, right? Or how?
I did. I could have went on. The pain was so great that I didn't want to go on. And I don't, I'll never forget, like, seeing it was like some shitty old pickup truck with this bumper sticker on it that said rehab is for quitters or whatever. And at first I got like a little bit upset, and then I looked at the pickup truck, and then I kind of drove past and I looked at the person driving the pickup truck, and I was like, good for you, man. Yeah. Hang on to that. See how that treats you, I think rehab is for brave people. I think people that quit and people that surrender, people that are having problems, people that are doing things that are no longer serving them, the woman that's in the abusive relationship that finally just walks away from it, the guy that's looking at porn every day and knows that it's eating him alive and making him less of a human being, that just stops it altogether. Those are the heroes, man. Those are the heroes, not the people that are, I don't, It's funny because I love iconoclasts, and if you look at my, the images on my wall, I love iconoclasts. I love people that do what they want and live for what they want. But don't you think Jerry Garcia would rather be a grandpa today? Don't you think that Sid Vicious would rather be writing his third book and going on tour with his fourth band, or don't you think that maybe don't you think that Bob Marley doesn't wish that he would have listened to the doctors and went and got treatment for his cancer? Or Steve Jobs, who apparently put off treatment and put off treatment and put off treatment. I bet in those final moments, those final breaths, they wished otherwise. Or Kurt Cobain, don't you think that if he had any control over it, he could go back and unpull the trigger? Quitting is glorious and beautiful, and surrendering is glorious and beautiful, and being in a lot of pain is an amazing place to be in, and I'm grateful for being in so much pain, because that's what launched me into where I am today.
And can we just talk a little bit about that? And I totally agree with what you said. If we look at, like, being strong when you're winning or when life is amazing, that doesn't take a lot. Everybody can be cocky when everything goes well, but to be a man or a woman when every shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
And still go on and still say, here I am a human being. This can happen to anyone, but I'm gonna take responsibility, and I'm gonna dig myself out of this ditch and create something out of my life like you did. That takes courage, because people are not counting on you anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not counting on yourself anymore. How did you find that little hope to change?
Prayer. Prayer was really like the main catalyst, I would say. Lots of prayer. Obsessive, incessant prayer.
Did you believe in something?
Yeah, I knew something created all this. I just didn't know what or who, or if there were many beings or many gods. I didn't know. I had no idea, but I knew I wasn't strong enough to get to where I am right now. I knew that I was going to have to create a life that was so enjoyable that drugs and alcohol would no longer be necessary, and I knew I didn't have what it took. I just knew it. I'm not a strong person. I'm not a smart person. I'm not somebody that can follow through with anything. I'm really pretty limited in talent and willpower and strength. Physical strength, sure. But that's not going to get you to where
yet you have 400 employees today.
I do, but that is through the grace of God And that is whatever that means. I don't know. I don't plan on knowing anytime soon. I will know who God is when I take my final breath. I have no idea who God is. I don't know if God is a man or if God is a woman or both. I don't know if there are many gods or if there are one God. And I'm not interested. And someone got so mad at me for saying this. I did a talk the other night at Next Health, and someone sent me this really long DM like, you know, how dare you not say that Jesus is God and Jesus is your Lord and Savior. And that Jesus very well may be the Son of God, and he very well may be my Savior. But from everything I know about Jesus, he hung out with beggars and prostitutes and thieves, and he forgave everybody and he loved everybody. And if that is truly the Son of God and he is who people think he is, I have a feeling he's going to take it easy on me when it comes time for judgment. And in the meantime, even if I did believe all that, I'm not going to go scream at people and tell them that that's what they need to believe. People should believe whatever they want to believe about God. But the 400 employees and the multiple cars and the success and the, you know, the money, that comes from the grace of God. That comes from putting one foot in front of the other. That comes from establishing these tiny little habits and building upon these tiny little habits that become accumulative, that begin to, like a snowball becomes an avalanche and it goes down the mountain. This is not the empire. This is not from strength or intelligence or willpower. This is from tiny little habits and good deeds and picking up the piece of trash when no one's looking and returning the shopping cart to the front of the store even if it's raining, from tipping even if the service is not good, from calling my mom and telling her that I love her, from looking people in the eyes, from telling people that they look good, from handing out compliments when compliments are deserved. Not flattery. I'm not into flattery. But if someone looks good, you're right. I tell them they look good, man or woman. And look, I mean, I've made 10 million mistakes over the last 15 years. And I'm not going to lie to you and like, oh God, I'm this great guy and I went grocery shopping for one of my employees. I'm also the guy that, like, you know, if I'm at the coffee shop and the girl is super hot that's helping me, you know, trust me, I'm reaching in my pocket for more than I normally would and making it very evident that I'm putting that very large tip in that tip jar because I want to be acknowledged and I want to be smiled at and acknowledged by somebody that I find physically attractive. I'm still a guy and I'm still full of flaws and full of faults. And, you know, I am nowhere near where I should be, but I am reaching towards my divinity, and I am reaching towards the goal of becoming the man that God intended me to be. And I am going to fail 15 times tomorrow. I'm going to be short with someone I shouldn't be short with. I'm going to maybe not smile back at somebody that I should have smiled back. I'm going to make mistake after mistake after mistake. But the point is, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my best. That's the point. I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my best. And
is that important?
Yeah, you got to do your best. You got to do your best. Whatever that is. It doesn't mean, you know, if you say to me like, dude, let's do one of those. I know you used to do those Tough Mudders. Let's go do one of those Tough Mudders. I haven't trained for a Tough Mudder in 2 years, right? If you challenge me to come do a Tough Mudder with you, that doesn't mean that tomorrow that I go and I run 12 miles and I work out, you know, 10 hours in the gym with, you know, with free weights. That means I accept the challenge. I get excited about the challenge, and maybe tomorrow I just go for a walk for a couple miles, right? And then the next day I give myself rest because my quads are burning, right? Because of the lactic acid buildup. I'm 49 years old, for God's sakes. And then maybe I do some light stretching. And then the next day I go for another walk. And then the next day maybe I do 10 push-ups. And then the next day maybe I take a little hike up the hill for, you know, 10, 15 minutes. And I continue to do my best. What's going to happen when that Tough Mudder or that Spartan race rolls around in 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, whenever it's going to be? You and I are going to go do that. And if I have to pick you up and carry you on my back, we're going to cross that finish line. If I have to crawl with you on my back, we're going to go through that finish line. But again, it's about giving as much of your best that you can and being realistic about it. But every day.
And why is it so important to finish for you?
because it was always my Achilles heel. I was always a starter but never a finisher. So these Spartan races and these Tough Mudders taught me to finish, and there's no greater feeling. Oh God, it's you can't imagine. I mean, and it's a different type of feeling than the feeling that I was explaining yesterday with Michaela, with the girl, and the groceries. Yeah. It's a different type of feeling. It's an inward love, running through that finishing line and throwing my arms straight up in the air and knowing that 6 months earlier I wasn't in anywhere near the type of shape that could get me through a 12-mile obstacle course race. Running through those electrical wires and getting I mean, it's one of the most painful things ever. Have you ever done it?
No, I haven't.
It's amazing. Those people are geniuses, and they're making tons of money, and they deserve to make tons of money.
And I think it's all about staying the course, right? When you're on the right path.
Yeah.
You have to, sometimes it's important to quit when you're on the wrong path. But
yes.
When you're on the right path, stay the course.
Yeah.
Because we have these people that are always quitting when they come close to something just because it's hard. I'm putting out a show every week.
Yeah.
It's not easy all the time.
No, I can't imagine.
To get an amazing guest to record.
You went through hell getting me on here, and I'm nobody.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're much more than nobody. You're incredible. You're amazing. And I want to share. I share different types of people's story, not only people that are famous, because I believe that everyone has a story, and you can learn from every person. But and I've thought a lot of times, should I can do every 10th day or but it's about character.
Yeah.
I have decided to do this, and I'm gonna do it until I decide not to do it.
Right.
And when I'm doing it, even though it means that I have to call and email people in the middle of the night, because it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I feel fucking amazing when someone emails me and says, this podcast was great, it really helped me. But every time when I do a podcast, I'm always a little bit nervous. And then I think about, this is not about me. It's about sharing a person's journey, honoring that person, so that other people can learn and hear this story. And that's why I love this format, because this is going to stay forever.
Right.
And there's going to be a kid from Ohio, New York, Japan, Africa, that is going to be addicted to something, that's going to listen to this maybe tomorrow or in 10 years, that's going to change their life.
Right.
And isn't this meaningful then?
It's the best. There's nothing better. And yeah, that's really the goal. I mean, I was talking to my buddy Mark, and he was saying, at any time you can sell your company and you'll have millions of dollars. You can go do whatever you want. And I'm like, but what would I do? I mean, this is what I would do. I would get up in the morning and I would come to a place like this, or I would come to this place if I was lucky enough to live in Malibu, depending on how many multiples that they would give me for my company. But yeah, this is what I would do. And my passion, my mission, my heart, I think we share that we want to inspire people to be their best and to live their best life, because at the end of the day, I could sell everything and I could move to Bali and I could live in a mansion on the beach and have people cutting me open papayas and handing them to me. That shit gets old. It does. If you don't have it, you haven't experienced it. I've experienced it. I've traveled all over the world many, many times. I've stayed in the nicest hotels around the world. I've flown around the world privately on private jets, and it's cool. I mean, it looks great on Instagram. You definitely get some likes, but it's not anywhere as meaningful as the book and how that's helped people. SunLife Organics and how that's helped people get healthier and get happier and come out of their shell, and whether it's the customers or whether it's the employees, all of those little Spartan races and Tough Mudders that I ran, those personal triumphs, it's about living an awesome life now. I don't know how much longer I have on this planet, but I'm going to affect a lot of people's lives. I'm going to have a huge impact on people's lives, whether it's with my second book that should be coming out in the next year. The same guy that helped me with this book is helping me with the new one.
What's your new book about?
My new book is totally prescriptive. So that was a memoir, and people find a lot of value in that because it's so dark and it's so graphic, and it's just like, oh my God, if this guy can stop, if this guy can crawl his way out of hell like that, anyone can. And that's the God's honest truth. If I can stop, if I can change, anybody can change. You are not listening to a smart guy. I'm a high school dropout. I stopped going to school regularly when I was in 6th grade. I can't spell. I can't type. You're listening to a convicted felon. You're listening to someone who got fired from every job he's ever had. You're listening to somebody who destroyed every relationship he ever had. I was a cheater and I was a liar and I behaved like a horrible human being because I was terrified. I was so scared that someone was going to leave me that I figured I better go cheat just in case, because I know sooner or later I'm unlovable and they're going to leave, so I better hit on their best friend, or I better hit on their sister, or I better find another girlfriend on the side because when she leaves, I don't want to hurt. I was always trying to protect myself. I was always trying to find comfort. The problem with always looking for comfort is comfort makes cowards of us. Comfort makes cowards of us. Comfort's not a good thing. I mean, I like my cashmere blankets and I like my very expensive, mattress, and I just got those Japanese toilets that like wash your butt when you're done going to the bathroom. Like, I'm not saying I don't like comfort, but if comfort is the end goal, you're fucked.
Yeah. And how long have you been clean now?
June 18th, 2003. So this June will be 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
That's
awesome.
Incredible.
It's so awesome. Oh my God. It's the best thing. It's the best thing ever. And
look at you. I wanted to say you're 33, but you were 33 when you quit.
I was 33 when I quit. Yeah, I'm 49 now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm 25. I'm stronger and faster, definitely stronger and faster than when I was 25, and in better shape. I'm in the best shape of my life.
You're vibrant, and we're sitting in your office. Downstairs is your first store that you opened about 7.5 years ago. And I remember in the book, and the logo, SunLife Organics logo, I love that because it's a lotus, right?
Yeah.
And lotus grows in mud, right?
It grows in the mud and the dirty water.
just like you, basically, right?
Yeah.
And that's like it's amazing. And when I read your book, you were so nervous for the first day, if I remember this correctly, and then someone was knocking at the door, and that was a customer that was looking for Subway.
Yeah.
And then
Dr. Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a doctor too.
He still comes in.
And you managed to change his perspective, and he still comes in 7.5 years after.
Oh, yeah.
That means you're onto something. And I mean, organic and healthy food, that's something that we need to be alive, right? So let's talk about health a little bit, because you're healthy. What's important for health? Good food, good workout, and good recovery? Or like, how would you
I mean, it's like 80% what you put in your body. I mean, I used to do cardio nonstop. I used to do cardio 6 days a week, but I was drinking Coca-Colas, eating Reuben sandwiches, and eating pizza, and I looked frumpy. I looked doughy. I did not look how I wanted to. I didn't look how I look now. I look pretty good now. I'm happy with when I look in the mirror, I'm like, okay, cool. Wow. Finally, after, like 4 decades, I can finally look in the mirror and be like, okay, that's good. I like that. I can go to the beach and take my shirt off. I was at this amazing place yesterday. Mayo Detox, I think it's called Mayo Detox in West Hollywood. It's this incredible place where it's like physical therapy and massage together, but they like really get in there. They like go into your sternum. They go into your psoas. They go into like places that you're like, locked up and you're scared to let them go in, but they go in. And of course I walk in and the girl's like super, pretty and sweet and nice and whatever. And she's like, okay, well, go ahead and put these shorts on and take your shirt off. And I was just like, at first I'm like, what? But they have to work on your body,
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that. But I got to tell you, I went in the bathroom. I didn't like their shorts, so I had some shorts in my car. I went and got my shorts in my car. I went in the bathroom, I put my shorts on, and then I came out with my shirt still on. And she's like, okay, take off your shirt. We're going to, have you face up on the table, and we're going to work on you. And I took my shirt off, and I felt really comfortable. That is not something I spent decades not feeling comfortable because I had that like Midwestern, like beer belly, pizza eating, sandwich eating, so sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I love that place. And my therapist was incredible. Her name's Kayla. And I felt so good. She did some cupping on me and I feel awesome. But anyway, so 80% of it is what you put in your body. What I put in my body now is animals and vegetables, mostly vegetables with some animals. And by animals, that does include eggs and butter and cheese. But what I don't put into my body now are refined sugars or wheat. I avoid a lot of grains. I eat some grains, but for the most part, I eat animals and vegetables. I also live in a health food cafe. I live here. So like I'm drinking and eating collagen every day. I'm drinking bone broth every day. I'm drinking smoothies with super clean, organic, grass-fed, protein and greens powders and goji berries and lotus pollen and maca powder and raw cacao beans. And, I could go on and on and on and on. But I'm putting green juices and propolis and royal jelly. I'm putting this stuff in my body every day. So I have massive amounts of energy, which I've never had. I always felt lethargic and depressed and anxious. I have massive amounts of energy. I'm fairly low body fat now. I'm super strong. I take a lot of different herbs and adaptogens and stuff that I learned about like from Ben Greenfield and Rick Rubin and Tim Ferriss and the whole gang. So it's for me, and I think for most people, it's like 80% what you put in your body. I
eat healthy every day.
I eat for purpose. I eat for effects. I eat for energy. I eat for I eat for fuel. It's fuel to me. I don't eat for pleasure unless I'm on vacation. And when I'm on vacation, I eat like a pregnant
You're stuck
woman.
with me here instead of being in Puerto Rico, right?
I'm loving this. Honest to God, I was thinking when she texted me that text, like podcast today, I was like, okay, maybe that's why I missed my flight. My buddy's jumping on a private jet and flying to Puerto Rico, and I'm supposed to be with him. And I went to bed at 9:30, and he sent me a text message literally at 9:40. Jet leaves 1 a.m. You coming? And I woke up in the morning. I wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up in the morning. I saw the text message. I was so mad. But now I'm thinking, no, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to understand, that's going to learn something about, maybe there's somebody out there that's going to quit drugs or quit drinking or get in the best shape of their life or start that business that they've always wanted to start, or maybe some woman out there who's in some awful relationship. It doesn't even have to be violent, but just like a shit relationship that's not serving you and it's not serving the other person. Just fucking walk away. Just get up and walk out and don't worry about it. Go live at your parents again. Go stay at your best friend's house. Go stay in a shelter if you don't have those two other options. But get out and start your life over again. And if you want proof, that at any time you can start your life over again, look at this dude. I was 33 years old, 109 pounds. My teeth were falling out of my head. I had open sores all over my face. I had ringworm. I had scabies. I was filthy. I was a walking corpse. And now, 15 years later, I was 109 pounds there. I'm 161 pounds now. And I'm vibrant and I'm full of energy and I'm full of life. And if I can change, if a fucking idiot like me can change, anybody can change. Anybody can change. And that's why I'm here today. Blessed to be able to sit with you. Blessed to be able to communicate with your audience. And I just pray to God that there's someone out there that's going to hear this. You don't have to buy my book. My book is sold like crazy. You don't have to buy my book. How about this? Just Google my name. Go look at all the different interviews. Go look at the New York Times article where I was on the front page of the New York Times there. Think about that. This hopeless, disgusting, walking corpse wound up on the front page of the New York Times Fashion and Style. That's the best part. That's the Sunday Fashion and Style front page. That little short, weird dude from Ohio that no one loved, like, finally got to live a life beyond my wildest dreams, and here I am, and it's amazing.
Do you feel loved now?
I do.
Yeah.
Very much so.
It's like I'm falling in love with you because
Thank you.
Your personality, and I like when we were booking this podcast and we were rescheduling, I was so disappointed, and I expressed that to you, which when you answered me in such a humble way, I felt so bad. Like, I was, what am I doing? Texting this guy, he's so busy. I should just say, okay, let's reschedule. So I'm sorry for that.
No.
But like, you're incredible. And
Thank you.
I just have 2 more questions.
Sure.
And then we're gonna let you.
And please understand before you answer those questions, I have some of the most prolific, powerful, amazing, charitable human beings on the planet that depend on me, that need me. The way that I frame it in my social media is so I look cool. But rest assured, those are not my private jets. Those are not my vacations. That's not my lifestyle at all. My lifestyle is very simple. I go to bed at 9:30 every night. I wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I eat twice a day, once at 11 a.m. and once at about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. I don't go out. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I have the most boring life on the planet, and I could not be happier because I love my mom, and my mom loves me. I love my girlfriend, and my girlfriend loves me. I got 400 people, many of them young adults, that depend on me for a paycheck, and that paycheck shows up every 2 weeks, and it's been showing up every 2 weeks for the last 7.5 years. I got a business partner who, when I met her, she was eating Jack in the Box and smoking cigarettes and going out and getting drunk, and was super poor and living in a 1-bedroom apartment with her mom and just really not having a good time. She was struggling. She was working 2 jobs, and she was going to school full time and supporting herself. Well, she's got a pile of cash now, an amazing business now, and an amazing life now. And not because of me. She worked for it. She earned it. But I'm just saying, my cute little idea of starting what we called at the time a juice bar ended up taking off and becoming something much, much larger than we could have ever anticipated. We'll probably do like 14 million this year in sales, which is, it's insane. I mean,
that's awesome.
It's a lot of smoothies.
When you talk about juice bar,
it's a lot of sales. So I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So I wasn't blowing you off. It's just when someone so-and-so who is in charge of whatever says, meet me at the Van Nuys airport, I got a plane coming in, I need you to come with me to Monaco, to Paris, to Monte Carlo, to Dallas, Texas, to Oahu, I'm going to be in this contest, or I'm going to be in this poker tournament, or I'm going to be whatever these people need me to show up for, I'm showing up. I'm showing up. Not just because I'm a pretentious asshole and I love the Instagram pics and I live for the likes, but because those people are my friends and they're there for me. So I got to show up for them.
Yeah. No, I love that. And
sorry, what was the 2 questions?
So the two last questions is, I want you to imagine you're 87 years old, and you're sitting maybe in a rocking chair overlooking Point Doom or in Bali or whatever you.
I like both of those. Maybe both.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
And you just look back at your life. What do you want to have accomplished to say it was a good run?
87 years old, what do I want to have accomplished? To be honest with you, I've already accomplished it. If right now was my final breath, I'm going to smile, because I turned my life around. I stopped living the way that I was living, and I was able to take care of my mom for the last 14 years financially, and I was able to go back to Ohio and buy her a house and spoil the shit out of her. The girl that gave me the best years of my life, who I love dearly, who unfortunately our relationship didn't end up working out after 9 years, is okay financially and will be okay financially based on an idea that I dreamed up 14 years ago, 15 years ago. The book is out. It's done. I would like to obviously finish up the second book and get that into people's hands, because it's going to be much more prescriptive, and it's going to give very specific ideas of what you can do to make money, what you can do to get off and stay off drugs, what you can do to become healthy, what you can do to get in the best shape of your life. So it's not that I don't have goals, and it's not that I'm not going to do a lot more of what I'm doing now, but what I'm doing now was the goal. It was the dream, and I'm living that dream, and I see myself in that rocking chair smiling. I think I see some kids around me that are my own. A lot of cats and maybe even a dog. And yeah, and leaving behind a legacy. So like when I look at Richard Branson, and I look at Tony Robbins, and I look at this guy Steve Myhalo, who I'm friends with, Rick Caruso, James Ashton, when I look at these powerful men that have done such incredible things with their lives, I'm going to have young people looking at me like that. And yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to do some Elvis Presley shit too. I'm going to buy all my friends cars and houses and all that stuff as well. Not Cadillacs, but I don't know, Teslas or something. I don't know. I'm going to do some of that stuff too. That's where I see myself.
That's cool. And the last question is something that I ask all my guests, because we're all about sharing journeys. But at the end of the day, we want them, after watching and listening to this, to take at least one step towards their dream, their goal, or quitting drugs, or whatever it is. What can they do? One little thing when they're done with this podcast to just get a little bit on track to achieve the life that they want.
I think it starts with making the decision, and hopefully they're in enough pain and they're sick of being in pain to where they can make that decision, and then really just turning this podcast off, going for a walk, taking a series of really, really deep inhalations, filling up their entire lung capacity, filling up their whole sternum, filling up their belly with air, breathing in really, really deeply as they walk, allowing their thoughts to fall by the wayside. There's going to be crazy thoughts that are coming in as they increase the depth of their breath. Lots of thoughts are going to rise. Lots of thoughts are going to fall. Not grabbing onto any of them. Think of their thoughts like the cars that are rushing by on PCH right now, or on the 101 or the 405 or wherever you are. Think about those cars racing by in both directions. You can look at those cars and there's no harm, there's no foul. But if you were to reach out and you were to try to grab onto one of those cars, what's going to happen? It's going to cause some damage. It's going to cause some pain. Your thoughts are the same way. Breathe, walk, go for a 20, 30-minute walk, breathe deeply. Watch the thoughts come, watch the thoughts go. Let them fall by the wayside. Don't grab onto that car as it goes racing by you. Just let it go racing by you. It's the same thing with your thoughts. Let them race. Smile at them, laugh at them. When the self-doubting mind comes in and calls you a piece of shit and tells you that you're not good enough, and tells you that you're too old, and tells you that you're not smart enough, and tells you all those things, just smile at it. Know that your ego is not your amigo. Know that the voice inside your head is not your spiritual advisor. I always thought it was. I always thought I had to listen to the voice inside my head. The voice inside your head is bullshit. If you listen to that voice inside your head, it's going to destroy you slowly over time. It's going to take away all of your dreams from you. Listen to the voice inside your heart. It's really hard to hear, but after those thoughts rise and fall and come and go, and you learn to just let them go past you like those cars on the freeway, and you don't grab onto those thoughts, sooner or later you're going to hear the voice inside of your heart. Focus on the voice inside of your heart. It might not come to you on that first walk, but it very well might. Listen to that voice inside your heart. Go home, get on your knees, pray, even if you don't believe. Don't get fancy. I don't want to hear the Lord's Prayer or the Bhagavad Gita or the chanting Hare Krishna or whatever. All I want to hear is, God, can you please be with me right now? Can you please hold my hand right now? Can you please show me the world the way that you would want me to see the world? And can you please guide my thoughts and hold my hand and walk me through these difficult times? And once that calmness and that serenity sets in, get a pen, And as in much detail as possible, I want you to write a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. And be as descriptive as possible. Write down exactly what you want, what kind of car you're going to drive, what kind of person you're going to date, what kind of food you're going to eat, what type of shape you're going to be in. And that's it. And just go fucking do it. That's it. One little baby step at a time. This didn't happen overnight. This took almost 16 years. But it's fucking awesome. It's amazing. This feels great. I'm going to go eat the best meal of my life with the girl of my dreams and go home and enjoy myself and go to bed early and get up in the morning and watch the sunrise and make a positive impact on people's lives. And it's the best life ever. If you want to get my book, get my book. You can go on Amazon and you can follow me on @Khalil Rafati on Instagram. Facebook, unless I went to high school with you, I'm probably not going to accept you, and I don't really post that much on there anyway. I just communicate with people on Facebook that I grew up with. But you can follow me on Instagram @Khalil Rafati. You can follow my crazy journeys around the world, and you'll get any updates on the new book or whatever. And I wish everybody the best of luck. That's the class in my yoga studio starting next door.
With some nice music. That's amazing. And yeah, with that being said, namaste.
Namaste, buddy.
Khalil, thank you so much. It meant the world to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
You're a beautiful human being.
Thank you.
I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do this with you. And thank you, everybody that watched and listened to this incredible conversation that I had with Khalil Rafati. If you like what we do and you want to change your life, please help us helping others by subscribing to our podcast. Go to ilovesuccess.co. I have a couple of free chapters of my book, which is about goal settings. Read Khalil's book, I Forgot to Die. It is truly a life-changing book. And just do something with your life. Don't be that person that is always on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, just watching everybody's journey. Create your own journey. Get inspiration, but then get to work. Write that plan down and start. Small steps. That's it. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.